Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. You guys are in for a treat. We have a returning guest, long overdue. Someone, it's very rare when I'm friends with someone and I'm a fan of their work in the sense of like, okay, this person is really making it happen. And like, I just want to stand and applaud. Alex Stein, host of Primetime with Alex Stein and the Blaze, is here. You've seen him on all those clips. Here's something else I like to do. I love acknowledging when I'm wrong. Like a lot of people like saying, I told you so. A strong person has no problem admitting he was wrong. Last time you were on the show, this was over a year ago, I gave you very little bit of heat about confronting destiny. It didn't sit right with me. He was on a panel. You staged the panel. I asked you about it. Your explanation made sense to me. And boy, did I get that one wrong. Because there are people who don't know, after that happened, Trump had that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. And not only was Destiny defending the assassination attempt, which I could maybe wrap my head around, but he was cheering on that guy in the audience, Corey Kopendor, who's a dad, husband, volunteer firefighter, I think even, wasn't even getting paid for it. And his idea was basically like, well, if you show up to a Trump rally, you should expect what you get. I'm sorry, even in like totalitarian countries, if you show up to a rally, it's not a given you're going to be shot. So I was wrong in that one, way wrong. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on his heel turn after that.
You do not owe me an apology, Michael. Let me just tell you a little backstory about Destiny, though. Him and I had, and I think I explained this the first time we talked about it. We had a debate like 4 years ago, and it was a blood sport debate. It got pretty intense, but the debate was, who is a bigger pervert? Me for calling AOC a big booty Latina, or him for having a wife at the time that was in an open marriage, open relationship. And really, I thought this was going to be like a lighthearted, joking debate. I didn't think it was going to be some serious debate because at the time, I was kind of like you. I thought Destiny's funny. Destiny's a talented streamer. There's something likable about him. That's why he has a huge audience. He's charismatic in a different way. He has a weird version of charisma, but he's charismatic. So my point is, I thought this debate was going to be kind of funny. He starts kind of personally attacking me. Then I start personally attacking him. And he just hates me. And I've literally had mutual friends. I'm telling you, Michael, before I even joked and went on that stage, like I was going to actually do anything, that clip you're talking about referencing, I had tried to mend the fences with Destiny multiple times. I was like, listen, we had a heated debate. It's not personal. Because what Destiny did is he did a thing where after that debate, he blackballed me from any debates. So any group debates that he was on. And Destiny's the biggest debater on the internet, arguably. Now I think Andrew Wilson's probably, at his level or they're pretty even. My point is, I tried him in the fences. He would not do it. And that's when I'm like, this guy's so unreasonable. He hates me for one debate. And I've been called every name in the book. So have you. And you just kind of, after a while, when you put yourself in the spotlight, you're going to get that negative attention sometimes. And you just have to get used to it. So I can't believe that he was so hurt by our debate. So when it comes to Destiny, I literally multiple times tried to apologize to him. And I'm like, this guy's just so unreasonable that I knew that he had a screw loose. And so much information has come out. The fact that it's not just the disgusting things he said when the, Donald Trump, the assassination attempt that happened in Pennsylvania. He literally is in trouble right now. He's like fighting a civil lawsuit because he shared, intimate images of somebody that he was with to other people. It's like sharing nudes, revenge porn. And then, Michael, another sector of the internet you probably are not that familiar with, but are you familiar with like the Steel Toe morning show and the Nick Rekieta wife swap?
Oh, Rekieta, I'm familiar with the whole situation there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying, I actually like Nick and I actually like Aaron and Multi. I think it's kind of an interesting story. But this wife swapping thing, it's a weird thing to me that it's so, I guess, prevalent. But they were doing it, Destiny's doing it, and then Steel Toe, Aaron and Multi of the Nick Rekieta stuff, he went to jail and was arrested for sharing intimate images of Kayla Rekieta, Nick's wife. So it's like, that's just not that cool of a thing to do, to share nudes of somebody. That's just, it shows that you're kind of a degenerate. And so now everybody's seeing the true colors of Destiny, that he's not a good guy. But I don't think he's ever pretended to be a good guy, right, Michael? Like, you didn't like him because he was a good guy.
There's two things. First of all, I can't even wrap my head around the idea First of all, I'm not into king shaming. Whatever you want to do in your bedroom within almost any
Yeah,
reason, I don't care.
I'm not even.
But
I want to say that real
what?
quick. I don't even give a damn that they're swapping. I just wouldn't do it. You guys want to do that? It's
Yeah,
just different. It's you know,
no,
it is different. I don't really care what people do. It's their own life.
but if you're gonna talk about what's like more perverted, calling someone a name or actually doing things with genitalia, it's not a comparison. Like, how is this
Yeah,
even a debate? Like, okay, you said she's got a big ass. She does have a big ass. She is a Latina. The end. It's a fact. It's a factual statement. You're not. It might be perverted. You're saying what I'd like to do with her. Blah blah blah. But even then, you're just talking. It's just locker room talk, like with Trump. So that's one. Two is I do think he pretended to be a good guy in the sense that he made it a point to go on right of center shows and engage in good faith debate. I thought he was very good, and he probably still is very good. I don't want to take anything away from him at presenting leftist points of view. He said one of the smartest things he said, the Democrats are taking his advice right now. He said, why are we not wrapping ourselves in the American flag? America's the best country on earth. To make this a right-wing thing is so stupid and leaving money on the table. All that's true. He's like, we should be patriots. Like, yeah, no shit. And the Democrats see it now. They're doing it left, right, and center. So that's very, well, left and center at least. So that's something from him. I don't think got directly from him. And he seemed to, but there were mask slipping moments because he came on the show. We had a good conversation. He's the only guest I've ever had who wouldn't look at me, which is really kind of odd because he's looking at his
what?
computer while I'm talking to him.
Oh, you're saying like this, like the whole podcast. He's like this. Yeah, that is kind
Yeah.
of bizarre. Yeah, that is
And
weird.
when you're from Eastern Europe, that's very much a sign of like contempt. But I'm like, okay, he's a streamer. He's on the spectrum. Probably he's doing his own thing. I don't really care. But then he had some little when I was on Rogan once, and Rogan was saying how the State of the Union was they pretended it was live, it was staged, and I called bullshit on it, and Rogan got some things confused, and Destiny pulled out that clip to make fun of Joe, and was also like, and if even Michael Mouse, every word he said for me, and I'm like, oh, like that's kind of shitty that you'll be on my show and be all friendly, and then you don't have a good opinion of me, which you're certainly entitled to do, and you're not even wrong, but that just seemed a little bit insincere to me. And then when the thing with Butler came out, I was like, I'm sorry. There's a lot of people in this country whose political views I hate and who I personally hate, but it is going to take a lot for me to be cheering it on and doubling down and so on and so forth. And it's like, and it's also the thing about like Trump's taking down our like country. It's like, who's our? Because he represents like a lot of people. So are they not part of that R? Like, how do you have ownership, but all the MAGA people of America, the MAGA people don't? It doesn't really make sense to me in those terms.
Well, like you said, Destiny does have some good arguments. I think he's actually more, even though he has some far left, ideas, he is actually kind of, he goes against his, I guess a lot of the
Yeah.
leftist viewpoints. Like he's very pro-Israel, and a lot of leftists are very, pro-Palestine. So that's not, he gets a lot of flack for that, I think, in his own community. So he's not afraid to be a little nuanced in his views. And I think that's why I like Destiny, or that's why people like Destiny. But like I said, I made a honest, olive branch attempt, and I'm not even saying that we're trying to be besties or anything like that, but just the way that he was just so uninterested, and then went to try to cancel me from future debates. He got me removed from debates that he was on, and he's a bigger debater than me. So in the debate space, I'm not really in that. I'll do some debates randomly, but I'm not. That's his whole shtick. So he was able to blackballed me from a lot of debating events. So that's why I'm like, it's all personal. I don't want to. And when I went up there on stage, I'm not going to hate Destiny. I'm just over there joking with him, just trying to kind of shake him up, like a Coke can a little bit, rattle him up, or rattle his cage a little. But at the end of the day, when it comes to Destiny, I'm not judging him by what he says about me on the internet. I'm just judging him by the stuff that he said about the shooter, the stuff that he's, having a civil lawsuit about. That's what makes him a bad person. It doesn't make him a bad person because he has different political viewpoints than me, or because we disagree on debates. He's an actual bad person because he's just like morally repugnant. I mean, his own son, his own son's MAGA. Did you know that? His own son is like a
I did not know that.
Nick
I didn't know he had a
Fuentes.
son.
Yes. He has a son, and Destiny started off as a carpet cleaner. I think he got a woman pregnant, as a story, a long time ago, and so I don't even think he has custody. He obviously has, visitation with a kid, but I think the mom has full custody, so that's why you hardly ever see it. But now that his kid is, I think, 15 or 16, he has an internet presence, and he's very anti-Destiny. Like, he likes his dad, but he critiques his dad very hard on the internet.
That makes me sad. I gotta tell you.
It is sad. It's very sad, dude. It makes me think like maybe I should. The only time I really thought like maybe I should get off the internet. I don't even have a kid yet, but seeing that with the monster that Destiny created, that he can't control the baby monster that his kid's gonna be because his kid's gonna be able to use the internet. His kid's gonna have a built-in audience just because of his dad, and that the kid can
Yeah,
just counter signal anything his dad says and get an audience just that way, just by and most kids do counter signal their parents. Like if your
of
dad's a
course.
big Dallas Cowboys fan, you want to be a fan of the Redskins, their rival. So Destiny's created a baby monster, and I hope I don't create some sort of internet baby monster that's going into Texas Senate hearings and doing all this stuff because it's hard. It's not easy, and it's not. I don't know if that's is the best route to success.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting you said that because Jim Acosta, as people watching this might remember, very recently had an interview, if you can call it that, with this AI, this kid Joaquin, who died and who was murdered. I should be very clear in Parkland, and it's just a computer simulation, a photograph of him, and they put words in his mouth. And not everyone was extremely disturbed by this. And my point I made is, if there's one thing teenage boys like, it's repeating what their parents say. It's like, what are you even doing? Like, you're really telling me if this kid was alive, he would be just in lockstep with mom's stupid gun views? That's not a thing.
I know. Well, that was so bad, and Jim Acosta got fired, so now he's on his own. But the idea that he wants to reanimate a dead person to use it as anti-gun propaganda is the fact that he calls himself a journalist. He's worse than Jerry Springer, and I like Jerry Springer. I'm just saying
Well, sure.
that's less. I'm saying that's less than Jerry Springer, Howard Stern. That's the lowest of the low to computer animate a dead person in order to use it as anti-gun propaganda. It's absurd.
So one of the things I want to ask you about, I want to talk about some. First of all, I got to tell you, Alex, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you this. You're a hard person to hate. Yeah, a lot of your antics are like clownish, but you're trying to be silly and goofy. You're not trying to be malevolent. You're not trying to get people actually upset or self harm or anything like that. You're putting on a show. You're laughing at yourself. You're not expecting people when doing these stunts to be taken seriously. And so it's really kind of like, it's just hard for me to wrap around Destiny's issue. It's like, if you came and like, you know what, Destiny, I went too far in that debate, I regret it. It's like, okay, cool, let's move on. Or if it could be like, okay, I'll have Alex on the stage, but he has to agree not to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, cool. Or maybe you say no, but it's not gonna be hard to get the discussion going.
Michael, I'm saying he said much worse stuff about me, and I'm the one
Yeah,
that's trying to
yeah.
mend the fences. I'm the one realizing, like, dude, it's not a big deal. It's just words on the internet. Other people have said this. I'm not going to let it. He's a successful guy. I don't, I did not want to just alienate him, but that was the thing. I alienated him, and it's fine. But now, looking back, I'm happy that I have no connection to Destiny. I'm happy that we're not friends because Destiny is going to be, and I suffer from this too, self sabotage. But I can tell you that Destiny is going to continue to self sabotage himself because I think he doesn't. He wants to be successful, but at the same time, he kind of wants to be like how JD Vance was just saying in an interview, he can't go to a bar anymore. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Destiny wants to have his cake and eat it too. And I feel like the bigger he gets, the bigger the chance he is going to self sabotage and ruin his career and, maybe go to jail for doing something, like sharing nudes. So I just really hope Destiny would potentially, mend the fences with me. But at this point, he's too far gone.
Yeah, and that Butler incident would have been a very easy moment for him to reclaim the high ground and be like, wait a minute. Okay, it's been a week later. I'm looking back. I've talked to people. What am I talking about? Like, this happened when I think Kathy Griffin, to her credit, I don't know if people know this, when she had that thing with the decapitated Trump head, Rosie O'Donnell called her and said you should apologize, and said you shouldn't apologize because of Trump, because this is just like a stunt. But there's moms whose sons were reporters or soldiers who had this happen to them. And it seems like you're making light of that. And Kathy's like, holy crap, that actually is a good point. And she said, you know what? It really isn't sensitive to people who were beheaded in the Middle East, Americans and their families. So I regret that. And then, of course, she had to revoke her apology, whatever the point is. But for him, it could have been easy to be like, you know what? Like, this rhetoric has gotten so crazy that it's led me to this, and like we need to take a step back because like where does this end? It's like I'm worried that Trump is leading. He could say that Trump is leading a civil war, and I fell in right with that. And this put on Trump, say this is how toxic Trump is, but at the end of the day, I said something I shouldn't, and I'm donating money to the family or to some firefighter association, and he'd be able to walk it off pretty easily. And I think that would have been almost even commendable.
I agree, and that's the thing is that humans. We're not perfect. Like we're all infallible. Like we make mistakes constantly, and
Yes.
being willing to look at a mistake and be like, "Look, I was wrong." That is a fully evolved person. So, and I make mistakes all the time, and I
Of
know you
course.
can go to like the school of thought of Donald Trump though, where you don't apologize. But at the same time, you do have to have a little empathy and sympathy. So it's kind of a gray area where you don't want to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry I did this," but you also don't want to be a total disrespectful asshole pissing on the grave of people that were literally risked their lives to save other people. So it's a tricky situation. But apologizing, if it's like you said, there's a way to apologize without apologizing.
Yeah.
There's a way of being like, I'm sorry, without looking like such a coward and just saying, hey, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. And Destiny would never do that. I don't think he's ever apologized for anything that he's been in trouble for or canceled for in the
And
last few
Trump
years.
has at least twice. He the first time I think whatever they put a gun to his head in effect was when the Access Hollywood tape leaked. He's like, I shouldn't have said those things. I'm sorry, blah blah blah. Fine, but he in 2024 when he was running in for president, he said, you know what? The staffing choices I made, I didn't make the good decisions. I'm going to make better decisions. So that's not an apology, but certainly an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, which I think a lot of people didn't expect to come out of his mouth, and he said it over and over.
Well, and I think I would have thought that the election would have been a little closer, but if, Kamala Harris, when they asked her what she would have changed about, her
Oh
term
my
as
god, yeah.
vice president, under the fact that she wouldn't even just say, I would have zigged instead of zagged on a couple, she said nothing. She didn't even answer the question. I think that really lost a lot of the people that were potentially going to vote for her when she couldn't even apologize or say, oh, should have done this, couldn't even admit that they made one mistake in her 4 years.
Right.
It just shows you that you're just so ingenuine. I don't want to vote for you. I think that really cost her big.
Yeah, and it's very easy to be like, you know what, at the time we thought X, and then a couple months later we learned Y. If I'd known Y, we would have done it differently when we did X. It's really not hard.
I agree. I agree. But I guess it's just like ego, and they don't want to be on record saying I'm sorry. But sometimes you just have to admit when we're wrong, and we're wrong all the time. Nobody's perfect. I mean, ChatGPT is wrong. I mean, the freaking AI is wrong. That's what's so crazy. Everybody thinks AI is so smart. If you go to any of these ChatGPTs, sometimes you have to give it multiple prompts. If you'll say like, "Who won the 1984 World Series?" Sometimes it'll spit out the wrong answer for some reason, which you're like, "What?" So
Yeah.
if AI can be wrong, if a computer can sometimes be wrong, then a human being can be wrong, and we shouldn't hold each other to some unrealistic standard of always being right.
It starts with one missed bill, then another. Now it's calls you ignore, envelopes you don't open, pressure that doesn't let up. Debt doesn't knock, it kicks down the door. But PDS Debt helps you fight back. They've helped hundreds of thousands of people break free. This is your shot. Take it before debt takes everything. There's no minimum credit score required. They're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money where it belongs in your pocket. PDS Debt is A plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've got thousands of 5-star reviews on Google, 5-star rating on Trustpilot. Why? Because PDS has helped hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. This could be you. I used to have debt, and let me tell you, it is awful because whatever you do, whatever you buy, wherever you go, it's always there in the back of your mind, and you don't have to live that way. You're 30 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find out the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/welcome. That's pdsdebt.com/welcome, pdsdebt.com/welcome. Thank you guys for helping out so many people. Let's get back to the show. So before I ask you about your recent stunts, for lack of a better term, I'm sure you don't find that term offensive. Do
No,
you
I
have
enjoy
conquered
that. Yeah.
something that a lot of young men and women struggle with? And in dating terms, but it's also an issue in like interviews. It's called approach anxiety, right? Approach anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
people don't know, is the idea that you see a cute girl at a party or you're going to go to the job interview, you're scared to pull the trigger and initiate an interaction. And it's paralyzing to a lot of people. We've all been there. Maybe when we're younger, you're at the party, you're standing at the wall, you don't know anyone, and you feel both that everyone's staring at you and then also that you're invisible. It's this weird kind of combination, right? You've conquered this. You are basically fearless. I've seen you go up to people like let's BDE, and you just seem to be and I'm sure on some level you're not fearless. I'm sure on some level you're conquering that anxiety.
Michael, are you? I got anxiety every second of every day. No, everybody thinks I don't have any anxiety, but this is the other thing. I do have less anxiety when it comes to like approaching people, so I have less approach anxiety. I have conquered that a little bit, but this is the problem with society. It's not Israel. It's not this. It's that people are too anxious to go do something. People are too anxious to go take a chance, and that's why you were successful. That's why you wrote a book. You took a chance. You did a podcast.
That's right.
You have to put yourself out there. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to write a book or do a podcast, but I'm saying in everyday life, we're too afraid to approach and our goals, and we don't even want to set goals to achieve them. Like we have to be not afraid to go out there and try something new and take a chance. It's like whether it's me speaking at a city council meeting, whether it's going up to a girl and asking her out, or even like, being at a restaurant and being more assertive when you order food. I mean, there's so many, I know that sounds kind of a weird thing, but people are like, I'm saying people are afraid to customize their order. Sometimes my girlfriend, who I love, she's like, doesn't like tomatoes. So, sometimes the people are don't even, and I'm not saying her, but saying some people are afraid to even tell a waiter what food they want at a restaurant. Believe it or not, I'm not saying that's some prevalent problem, but that we need to be unapologetically not afraid to do stuff like that. Go up to a girl. You got to take chances, and you're going to get no's. People are going to think you're weird. But if you're not unapologetically yourself, that's when I started being successful. It's not that you need to be toxic, but you need to be that anxiety that you have because everybody's judging you. Everybody hates you anyway. Everybody's going to talk shit about you anyway. It doesn't matter how successful or how bad No, that's serious. That is just how it is. Just human beings talk shit about people. We like to gossip. You could be driving a Rolls Royce brand new off the parking lot. People are like, oh, what an ostentatious asshole. Fuck. And then you could be the most, humble guy in the world, and they'd say, oh, he's such a humble asshole. Like, believe it or not, your friends will talk shit about you. It doesn't mean they're not your friend. It's just human beings. So when you have that realization that everybody's going to have an opinion, everybody's going to, you can't really change their opinion. Sometimes you can. But that's when I started to be unapologetically myself. And that's when I started speaking at these meetings. That's when I started confronting politicians because I was like, who cares? People are going to think I suck anyway. Let's just see if they think it sucks more. I'm just going to go do it regardless of their opinion. So that approach anxiety is big.
Yeah, what would you tell those young men, like literally in that moment, like what should you tell yourself to get over it?
Well, I actually do something, and I was doing this before, but this is really sad. I don't know if I've even said this on a podcast, but I do this all the time, and it is kind of dark. Like when I do get nervous about going to do something, and this is especially after my mom passed away. That's kind of when I really started to blow up, and that's when my approach anxiety went away. I remember every day walking to the ICU how scary that was, and how the nurses hated me, and how watching my mom die, how every second I didn't want to be there, and how bad it was. And I just tell myself the fact that I could walk into that room and do that for a week, I could do anything. There's no situation that I can walk into that's going to be worse than that. Whether it's a city council meeting or whether it's AOC, it doesn't matter. Nothing will be worse than that. So I feel like I've forged myself through fire, and somebody that's watching this, everybody has some thing that they could be a victim about that was really traumatic in their life, and if they got through it, I feel like that we can look back at our traumatic times and say, look, I got through that, so if that was the hardest thing I've ever been through, then this is going to be a cakewalk. Even if this thing that I'm approaching and this challenge up ahead is hard, nothing to me is as hard as walking into the ICU. So I think about that all the time, especially when I go speak at these meetings. Sometimes I know that sounds crazy. I'm kind of like, gosh, I don't want to do this. But I've had to do stuff that I didn't want to do before. And I also, but before that, what was crazy before that, what motivated me to do stuff, and it's almost kind of seems stupid. Michael, I worked with the TV show Cheaters for a long time.
Right.
And we catch people cheating on their husbands and wives. And I was supposed to be the host of that show, and they ended up going in a different direction. That's when I started to make content on my own. But while I was at Cheaters, we would go on hiatus every year. We'd film for like 7 months, and we'd take like, a few months off. So, the season never started at the same month every year. We'd always take a few months off in between to edit and, yada, yada, yada. So I had to have a second job. I had a job, and I would sell cars. And I would think about, there was one time right before Christmas, I bought, like 7 cars, and I was transferring to an auction, and it was freezing cold out. And usually in Texas, it's so hot. but I remember I was scraping they have these auction tags on it, and you'd have to scrape them off before I'd even take them to go get detailed. After I take them off the auction, I'd scrape them off because I'd have to get them towed. I didn't want people to know they were auction car, and so I would scrape the thing off. I remember one time it was freezing cold. I think about this all the time. I was at Mannheim Auto Auction about to drive the car into the thing, and I'm scraping off. It's freezing cold, and I cut the hell out of my hand, and I'm bleeding. And I mean, I'm just nicked, and I'm bleeding. There's blood everywhere, and it's freezing cold. And I'm like, why the fuck am I selling cars, cutting my hands, even though I was making, not great money, but I'm making a decent money. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Why am I cutting my hand in the freezing cold to make $5,000 or whatever the deal was? It was like 10 cars. It was a pretty good deal. I think I was making like $500 a piece, but I'm just saying, like, I deserve better for myself. And that, I would think about that a lot too when I started to create content. I was like, do I want to go back to cutting my hand, or do I want to make a cringe YouTube video? I'm not that I want everything to be cringe, but it's like, what's worse?
Yeah.
Would I rather, make that video, or do I want to be bleeding in the freezing weather of Texas? That's what it was so bad, because it's always so hot. And I remember at Mannheim Auto Auction. So I would think about that a lot. Then when my mom passed away, anytime there's something that I don't want to do, I just think, well, I did something I didn't want to do that was really hard. So this is going to be, a cakewalk in comparison.
Yes, so young men out there, you're stronger than your mom. So even if she's perfectly healthy, just get that pillow. It'll just take 10 minutes. And then
no, do not kill your mom. What I'm saying is, no, but Mike, you know this. You know that everybody's
we all heard
had to
you
do
say
something.
it.
Well, no, I didn't say that. I'm just saying everybody's
it.
gone through something. No, I don't think I implied that. But what I did try to imply.
Destiny said you implied it.
Destiny said I killed my mom. Destiny said all this stuff because I didn't vaccinate her, even though she did get vaccinated. That's what's so funny. That's what's so annoying about my mom dying, is that she got
Wait, he brought up your mom and not getting vaccinated?
Oh, talks about it all the time. Alex's anti-vax mom died of COVID. He's talked hours
No, you're joking
about that. I'm dead fucking serious. As a heart attack. I'm dead serious.
Oh my God.
But that does not even bug me. That I put myself out there. People are going to talk about my mom. I was very strong anti-vax. I didn't want my mom to get vaccinated. She had to, and it didn't help her out. She actually got COVID and died. So I believe that it wasn't even the vaccine that killed her, even though I think that's probably what gave her COVID. It was the fact that when we went there, we signed a DNR, do not resuscitate, because they wanted to ventilate her. We didn't want to get ventilated, and they didn't even care about my mom. They gave her remdesivir. I told them not to. Her kidneys shut down after 7 days and died. But my point is, when we said we didn't want to be intubated, they wanted my mom to die. And I know you're like, what do you mean they wanted my mom to die? They were kind of like, we told you so. Like, you should just listen to us. And I get that's how all doctors are supposed to be. But at the time, the fact that she could still breathe, she like walked in there, like all of a sudden now you want to put her under an intubator. We're like, no, this doesn't seem right. And then boom, all of a sudden she couldn't breathe. And 6 days later she died in my arms.
I did not know any of this. I am extremely sorry to. No, I didn't. No, I'm extremely sorry to hear this. I can hit below the belt with the best of them. Mm-hmm. And to me, to clown someone for their mom's passing, you really have to have, I don't even know what it would take.
I'm trying to apologize. Michael, I have to cut you off. And he said all this, and I still wanted him in the fences with him because I didn't want to. I don't want to hold any grudge. But like, what is it? Hate, and this is a cliche, but hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It doesn't benefit me to hate Destiny. I can tease him a little bit, but I think even in this podcast, I've talked about him very fair that he is talented.
I got it.
I can let bygones be bygones.
I could defend the Corey comments more than this, because I make fun of people dying on Twitter all the time, blah blah blah. But to go up to to their face and in front of an audience and to be like basically like taking your victory laps in an untrue way is, to me,
on my mom's death.
Yeah, I don't have a Venn diagram.
I would never want that victory. Michael, I would never want to celebrate someone else. We can joke about somebody dying, Hulk Hogan dying, and or whatever, Ozzy Osbourne. But I would never celebrate somebody's death as a personal win, especially if their parents died or their wife or their kids. Like, imagine Destiny's kid died. I hope that never happens. I would never, ever go on a podcast and celebrate that. I would be very sad, and I'd be very empathetic to Destiny if he lost his son. So it's just different. Yeah. Different strokes for different folks. Destiny's.
Ooh, that just gave me chills. That's very because I do make, but I also think I make the jokes, but People are like, oh my God, what if they saw it? I'm like, yeah, maybe could use a laugh. When I die, please roast me, literally and figuratively, because you being sad or anyone watching this being sad doesn't help me. I'm not here. So if I can still make you laugh, even at my expense, great. I've made your day a little bit better. That's all I want. So I don't want people to. They're going to be sad, maybe, hopefully, but at the same time, but to be like, ha ha, oh God, this is so gross.
Well, I've gotten that from so many people on the left, and maybe some people on the right too. They don't like me, but I've been made fun of about my mom. Like that's a dig that people go to. It's like a low blow. So I've almost gotten kind of numb to that. That almost doesn't even affect me as much because I've gotten that a lot. So yeah, it is. It is. I can't believe you didn't know that. I feel like it's something I've
No,
talked a
sorry.
lot. No, I don't need to apologize. It's a very bad situation. I know I'm smiling because I'm kind of uncomfortable thinking about it. I don't really love reliving it, but I do relive the moments a lot. But Destiny, dunking on my dead mom, it's just I would never dunk on
Well, I
somebody's.
also want to then commend you because on your show you always have her as like the computer, and I think it's really
Yes.
sweet that you kind of not only remember like so memories are the things that connect the living with the dead, and sometimes people will tweet at me and I'll say, "Hey, share a memory of your loved one," and then I retweet it so a lot of people can have a story about them. So I think it's really great. Then it adds even another element to your show when you have her there as the computer voice, and it's kind of a little shout out. I'm still thinking about you. I still love your mom. I think that's just adds another layer to it.
Well, I think about my mortality a lot, and to what you were even saying before that, you're like, what are they going to say? Like, a lot of people are going to celebrate my death, but a lot of people are going to be sad, and that's just kind of what I get on the plane all the time. That's how I think about myself. Like, some people are going to be happy. They're going to tweet, F Alex Stein, he deserved it, and some people are going to be really sad. So I've come to that conclusion. Have you come to that? I mean, I guess you kind of said the same thing.
Well,
Is
I
that
don't
the
plan on
conclusion?
dying because I'm an ancient evil from time immemorial. But
Would you plug
I
into the
also,
computer, Michael? Would you plug into the metaverse if you could plug in?
oh God, I think I would, and I'd be like a fucking virus. Like I want to be Agent Smith.
Yeah, you want to try to go in and from the inside out. But
Yeah.
the Matrix though, in the Wachowski brothers becoming transgender, it's kind of weird how spooky and how everything the Matrix predicted is kind of like coming true. It's like showing
Oh
the
yeah.
transition from humans to computers because that is
Yes.
what Elon Musk. Like we like Elon Musk, but the guy, some stuff I like, some stuff he doesn't. I think this Ashley St. Clair thing. I'm friends with Ashley St. Clair, and she told me that when he got her pregnant, that he made her, sign all this stuff that he would never, talk about it, not even going to acknowledge the baby. So in my mind, I think Elon Musk is a smart guy. But think about how
Whoa,
many
whoa,
other
whoa.
ladies he probably had. What?
You don't have that correct. And I'm friends with Ashley too. And when Ashley was in
Yeah. What do
Austin,
I?
hold on, she was staying upstairs in this house. So she so there's a lot of misinformation about this, and I want to get the record straight. Okay. She kept her mouth shut during the pregnancy. No one knew she was pregnant. No one knew she had a kid. Then it was like the
Yeah.
Daily Mail, the Guardian was going to out her. She got ahead of the story, and he was trying to get her to sign all these things after the kid was born. And her point was,
I'm on Ashley's side. I'm
well, no,
on Ashley's side.
there's other people watching this. There's like 5 people. I'm talking to them. I'm just saying for their edification, it's like she kept her mouth shut already. And she did it correctly. She's a media figure, and no one knew she even effing had a kid. And she's like, "Why are you giving me this NDA now when I've actually kept my mouth shut when I didn't have to?" And that's what happened. Became this huge thing.
No, and I think that if I was Ashley, I would, and she did. She was nice. She kept it a secret. But I'm saying the point I'm trying to make is that if Elon did that with Ashley St. Clair, he's done that with 20 other girls. He has 20 other babies with girls with NDA.
Right.
I don't know that. I'm just speculating that. I'm just saying Ashley St. Clair is a famous media personality. It's almost impossible to keep a baby with her secret. Like
Right.
the chances of that are slim to none. So I think that there are women that he's probably been with that, and if he wants to have a bunch of babies, that's not a crime. I'm not really against that, but I do think it's kind of weird to have a baby and not be in the kid's life. I don't think that that's a good father, just having a baby and never seeing
Of
it again.
course.
So that kind of makes me
Even
think
no matter how
it's
wealthy you are.
no matter how wealthy you are, I don't care if you give the kids $1 trillion. If they never had a dad, the girl's gonna have daddy issues and the boy's gonna have daddy issues. It's just, I mean, it's just gonna happen. So
And
I
that's
think
not
that's
just
kind of a weird.
hypothetical. The girl boy does have daddy issues.
Yeah, they do. That's why they became trans, because he was not in their life, and they want to get back at their dad, and so a lot of that trans stuff too is attention-seeking stuff. They want attention from their parents, and really, I don't even give a damn if you're an adult and you want to be trans, but I don't like these doctors telling parents that if they don't affirm their kid's gender, the kid's going to commit suicide. And I'm getting a lot of flack, even though I got a
Wait,
lot of
hold on,
support too.
hold on. You had the perfect segue. You had the perfect segue. So for people who don't know this, it was so beautiful. I felt like Jodie Foster in Contact. Tears are coming down my eyes. I'm like, they should have sent a poet. I can't even describe it. It gave me a whole new level of respect for you, which I already had a very high level of respect for you, but this is a whole new level of respect for you. What city council was this?
Well, this wasn't this. This is actually the Texas Senate hearing. So the Texas Senate, they meet in the House and they meet in the Senate. And, a rep had told me about, hey, you should come up here and speak. So I go up there, I go to Austin, and this is the trans bathroom bill, SB 7. And what it does, it outlaws transgenders from using the women's restroom and the vice versa for the men's restroom. So I knew that I was going to speak on this. And the point I was actually trying to make.
Wait, hold on. Can we talk about this for 1 second before you get to that? Because you said the vice versa. I think the trans men should be allowed to use the men's bathroom because they
That's
pass.
what I That's what I'm saying. That's my whole argument. Well, my whole argument was that no man is going to care if a trans man comes in here. No man's going to feel threatened that a woman wants to come in here. They don't care. It's an asymmetrical problem. I even said that in the speech. I'm like, it's just men trying to go into women's space. No guy's going to care if a trans man. They're going to be like, hey, they're going to maybe smirk or something. If anything, hey, it's not going to be. Get the fuck out! It's not. That's not how it's going to be. It's not going to be even uncomfortable. It'll almost be kind of fun in a weird. I don't know how to explain that. It just wouldn't be as intense as a man in a dress.
That's right.
Trying to urinate next to a little girl. Like, it just, the vibes are totally different. And that was the point I was trying to make. But what went viral was at the beginning of it, I talked about how I say this a lot. I don't think we should outlaw transgenders from the military, because I think they're really good at doing mass shootings, and they're and basically it's a joke. I say that they do all the mass shootings, but then it goes into the high rate of suicide. Maybe we could use them as suicide bombers like the Taliban does. And people ran with that on the left. Like, man encourages, trans people to commit suicide. But really, I was just trying to make the broader point that the suicide rate is incredibly high. And that goes viral. In the same week, a train conductor got misgendered and then went and ran and killed himself by jumping in front of a passing train. Like, you can read this Daily Mail article. I just tweeted it. And in that, I didn't even say that I'm sorry, but I just said, I don't want anybody to kill themselves. I'm not actually encouraging suicide. The point I'm trying to make is that suicide is very prevalent. It doesn't help these people by making them basically eunuchs. They get no sexual satisfaction. If you actually do the bottom surgery, and you're a Howard Stern fan, we were just talking about this. You remember how Dr. Sal Calabro would give free breast implants? That was back in like the E! Show. Do you remember that they would give free breast implants? Of course. Sometimes he would give free breast implants to trans women. Howard would do it, and they would always have the transgender on. They would like play some cringe game or something to win the breast implants. And the transgenders would always say, are you going to, Howard would always ask them, after you get the breast, are you going to get the bottom surgery? And this was like in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. And they would always say, well, if I do the bottom surgery, I have to go to the Philippines, or I have to go to, where I have Turkey, because they're like, there's no doctors here in America that really do it. It's very few. And then now, 25 years later, there's a gender reassignment clinic, multiple in every major city. So I just see that. That's just like my personal experience, like seeing how it was like, I remember seeing the transgenders talking on Howard Stern, we can't even get it done in America. Like, we have to go to the Philippines. And now they're just doing it willy-nilly on 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. So that's when I'm like, this is actually a bigger problem than just men wanting to wear a dress. This is some sort of like almost population control or something weird. There's something more sinister at telling a kid that you're born in the wrong body than just trying to make them feel good about their self-esteem or something. Like, there's something more evil behind it. I don't know 100% what that is, and I know I joke about population control, but I wouldn't be surprised if they would like more kids to have less babies, because they don't want the climate to change so much because the population rises so much. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're using this as a way to cull the population.
Folks, as many of you know, I've had stomach issues my entire life when I was a kid. It caused lots of problems. I had to eat in the principal's office because I had to take my Mylanta, and I left the school. It was a whole thing. And I never thought I'd know what it was like to be normal. And then I had a coworker who had Crohn's, which is no joke, as you guys know, and he recommended probiotics. and I tried them, and it was the first time, and I was in my 20s at this point, where I could have a normal relationship with food. It was that much of a game changer. So I want to talk to you guys about Just Thrive Health. If you go to justthrivehealth.com, use promo code WELCOME, you get 20% off your first order of probiotics. Try them. You'll love them. There's something else that they have. They've also recently introduced Just Thrive Bitters. Bitters are tasteless capsules with 12 bitter herbs, which are clinically proven to wake up your digestive system for results that you can feel. No more bloat, burps, or bellyaches after meals, just comfortable digestion. And you could try them risk-free, because if you don't like them, full product refund, no questions asked. If you're having stomach issues, you've probably told yourself, like I used to, either this is just how it's going to be or this is normal. Just because it's happening to you all the time doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. Please try it. You will be surprised how much better your digestive system can be. And by the way, once that happens, everything else falls into place. That's justthrivehealth.com, promo code WELCOME for 20% off your first order. Full product refund, no questions asked. Your health is your greatest asset. Thank you, Just Thrive Health, for sponsoring the show. Let's get back into it. It's interesting you said that. A couple of points. First of all, there's something extremely sinister about this emotional blackmail line that they use, where it's like, would you rather have a live daughter or a dead son? Right. So if you don't transition your son, he's going to end himself. Right. But the point is, well, those daughters, how do they fare? Are they doing so hot? Because the rates, it's not like those rates are zero. Those rates are still through the roof. Number one. And Alex, I don't know if you know this, but I had to learn it. And now it's like watching the Ring video. The only way I could stay alive is by passing it out to somebody else. And now you're about to be cursed. There is a clinic. There is a clinic where they give the genitals neuter. So you look like a Barbie doll or a Ken doll down there, right? And
I
do you
didn't
know where
know
that
that.
clinic? Do you know where that clinic is?
Wait, this is a cosmetic surgery to look like Barbie, though. They want to have the smoothness. Or can. I'm saying I know what you're talking about, where there's no genitals and it's just smooth. And there's a clinic that does this.
And you know where it is?
Miami, Florida. In Austin, Texas? And they do this. See, this is surgery like that, but they take an oath that goes against every Hippocratic oath or whatever they have to do as a doctor to cut a man's genitals or female's genitals and do that, even if it's a cosmetic procedure. Like, I don't think giving a girl big, massive tits is bad, but to cut their genitals and smooth it off, that's insane. That's a health risk.
Do you know what's even funnier about this? Like, you're talking about, like, people say it's a slippery slope. I say it's an elevator shaft, right? So like 25 years ago, there's very few people who need to have gender assignment, right? And then a lot of people like, okay, this person has mental issues. This will help them live their lives. All right, I don't like it, but I can deal with it. And then 5 minutes later, they're like, oh, what are you talking about? That was 2020. This is 2025. Wake the F up. Genitals are outdated. You're just going to have a little pee hole and you're going to look like a Barbie doll. That's what's that. Oh, there's another one, Alex. I confirmed this with Dr. Deborah So, the lovely, beautiful Deborah So.
Wait, I have to cut you off, Michael. Can they have sexual satisfaction? Because that's the biggest problem too. Is these people that get the surgery, their penises can't ever come.
Alex, do you really need to answer that question?
Well, obviously it's no. But why?
I don't
do that if
they can have intercourse. There's just a urethra.
Why would they do that if they can't have? I just don't understand why doctors do that.
That's because you're a far-right white Nazi supremacist, and you need to open your mind. So, and the other thing they have now is they give an artificial hole, for lack of a better term, in between the male parts and the buttocks. So in the middle, they put a hole there.
To have sex with?
I don't know why, Alex. I haven't gotten that far in the literature, but that's another one that they do now. So it's having both it's like you have both. So you have the male part, and then you have the female. Female, using the word extremely loosely, part.
Oh, I see. So you have a penis and a vagina. This is the thing.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn if you're gay. Well, I'm saying if you're gay, trans, whatever. Don't cut your penis. Don't cut your vagina, though. I don't know. I could put a knife to anywhere to my body, but the idea of the pain to cut anywhere on my, maybe if I had testicular cancer, they cut my testicles, but to cut the actual penis, that gives me the chills. To have a cut on my wiener, I would never want that thing cut. Like, I would protect that at all costs. So well,
hold on. You know that they don't they invert it.
Yeah, they slice it up the, whatever they,
So it
from
goes
the head,
inside of
from the
you. It's
shaft
not
up.
cut
Yeah.
off. That's the myth.
Well, yeah, it's not cut off, but it's filleted like a steak and then sewn into you. I mean, it's
And then
cut
you have
pretty
to,
bad. They cut it. They might not cut it off, but yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen how they describe that surgery. Or what
so,
about the girls that get the fake penis and they use the forearm skin and their
oh
forearm looks like
God.
they're falling off? It's like, come on, just have a vagina and just be butch. Like I mean, and you'll actually get laid. You'll actually, come. I know that sounds crazy, but I think that would be. I'm surprised that's not more important to more people. The idea that you can
Yeah.
have sexual satisfaction. I mean,
So let's talk a bit about this. So when clips like these go viral, and when you're dealing with the trans community, it is a community that, sorry to burst people's bubbles, is by definition 100% having mental problems. What is the response, and are you actually ever scared? You're a big dude, so that kind of helps. Are you ever actually scared something's going to happen?
well, yes. So I go to a lot of protests, and that's kind of what. I go to city council meetings, but the thing that really kind of blew me up is I would go to those drag queen story time protests when those are really starting to pop off. And Tucker
Yeah.
had me on because I got assaulted at one of those. But I've noticed there's less like of what I call the trantifa, like the transgender antifa in Texas. But let me actually tell you this story real quick.
Please.
One of the times that I went viral with Tucker, I was at a drag queen story time, and I think the kid's name was Benjamin Song. Benjamin Song was an Asian guy. He's in my video. I'm kind of teasing him a little bit, but he has a gun, and it's kind of an intense video. You've seen it. It's the one where I knock the guy over. It's like it's one of my more famous videos. But I'll send it to you. And this guy's kind of arguing with me, and I'm just kind of moving him out of my way. But he's so small, he kind of trips on his own feet, and he just goes flying in the air. It's a crazy video. But in the video, this guy Ben Song, I'm teasing him. I don't think it's a big deal. He has a freaking gun next to my head. I'm joking with him. I'm
Right.
like, what are you going to shoot me? What are you going to shoot me? Well, fast forward nearly 3 years, he's was on a manhunt because he was one of the people that organized the ICE, how they sabotaged and ambushed an ICE agent and shot him. He was one of the shooters, and he was the only guy they didn't catch, but then they ended up catching him a month later. So a guy that I was interacting with on one of my most viral videos 3 years later is in federal prison right now for actually shooting an ICE agent during all this ICE stuff. So that was kind of a wake-up call. I'm like, damn, maybe these people maybe they are impulsive. Maybe they really will shoot me. So that has made me kind of just take a little step back. Not that I'm not going to go to protest, but just kind of like, whoa, maybe these people are a little unhinged. Because really, the trans protests were the most laid back one. Like you go to a Palestine protest, that's pretty hardcore. Those people are not jacking around. But a trans protest is like a gay pride parade. It's not that bad. I mean, it's just a bunch of gay people or trans people. They're really, some of them are aggressive and loud, but really, they're everybody. It's like it's just not as intense as like a pro-Palestine or BLM protest. So I usually am not scared to go to those, but now looking back, the guy is in federal prison, and I was literally in videos like, what are you going to shoot me? You're going to get your gun and shoot me? And then he did. He got his gun and shot an ICE agent.
Yeah, there's a guy named Henrik Palgrim or Hank Palgrim, I forget his name, and I was teasing him on Twitter about he was like he was actually far right, and I'm not using it as a pejorative, just an identifier. And I was saying, oh come on, you're like there's a big Venn diagram between you and Ben Shapiro, and like he knew I was trolling him, but it was still kind of getting him, and we go back and forth. And he shot up a bunch of people in Colorado and himself, and he had a book where basically instead of Alex Stein, it'd be like Malik's Mine, like, and I'm gonna kill Malik's Mine and blah blah blah. And he did kill the character in the book, and you read
No,
this,
so
and
he
that's
wrote
my
a book.
face.
Wait, he wrote a book saying that he was going to do this with like pseudonyms of the people that he was going to kill. Is that what you're saying, Michael? Like
Yes,
he
like barely disguised
that's
pseudonyms.
dark. Wow,
And he did it, and
dark.
then I saw that, I'm like, oh, So now I'm very careful about comparing people to Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, well, you probably did set him over the edge, Michael, because you're an anarchist. Like he didn't know how to handle you. You probably were the straw on the camel's back that made him go crazy. So, good job.
Many such cases. So that is that. So are you like an Andy No figure? Or when they see you, are they getting in your face, or do people kind of know? Okay, this is done in good fun mostly.
Well, it's two things. It's like Andy No, I love Andy No, good guy. He got attacked and I have friends that are in Portland and Seattle. Those Antifa are a little different. They're all kind of like white people that probably came from like middle class backgrounds. It just really, are doing it almost more for the social scene, and they're kind of larping as this like political activist because
Right.
they've watched so many movies, and it's like all, like I said, it's all white people that are at the ICE protests in Seattle. You're like, why are the white people worried about the immigrants? It's because they just have something to protest for, so they're just hopping on the next trend.
I
Those
also love
people
the
are.
idea that how are like I know the answer, people calm down, don't freak out, but like how much of a problem are illegal immigrants with South America in our northernmost state, like other than Alaska? Like you're in Washington State, like that's the Canadian border. Like yeah, those illegal
If
immigrants from
they have
Canada,
five
they're fine.
Mexicans, Michael, they're like, oh, there's so many Mexicans here. You know, they have one Mexican restaurant. I'm in Texas, you're in Texas. Everybody's a Mexican. You know what I mean? We're in
Right.
Mexico. They're not at all. Like, I can see why the ICE protests would be big in Dallas or San
Right.
Antonio, but in Seattle, maybe if there's some Asian people at the protest, not one Asian. I'm saying I have boots on the ground. I asked them, I'm like, are there any Asian? They're like, there's one Asian guy, but there's no, in Seattle's all Asian people, so they don't
Right.
care. It's all white burnout, like hippie potheads that instead of touring with Fish and being in like the parking lot scene, they go hang out in a parking lot outside of the ICE headquarters and smoke weed all day and just look for action. And that's the other thing is, Michael, the homeless problem in all these cities, we can actually give a homeless person a free home and they still will go back on the street. Like in
Right.
Seattle, they're giving them tiny homes. In Portland, they'll give you a tiny home. You might have to be on a wait list, but the wait list is like a month. They'll give you a home, and every time they give a home, there's a lot of people that are documenting this. The people just feel more comfortable sleeping on the street for whatever reason because they're mentally ill. Like obviously they get on drugs too, that has an effect, but you can't fix something if human beings don't even want a free house. So I don't know how we solve the homeless if you can actually give them an apartment and they still don't like it.
I'll tell you how we solved the homeless. This actually happened. So before I moved to Austin, my buddy John, who does my book covers and who does the theme song for this very show, um, Austin used to have 10 cities. You'd go on Chavez Street. It was 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And there was a referendum over the wishes, I guess, of our communist city council. And the referendum passed overwhelmingly. You can't have like outdoor camping on the streets. And John from LA is like, I don't know. I don't believe that they're going to, get rid of them. Like we hear this talk all the time. And now there's not a tent to be found. And Alex, do you know where they put them?
Where?
I don't care. I have no idea. They're not
Ah,
here. The problem has been solved.
yeah, you're right. I was looking, Austin. The tents are gone. They used to be all under
Yeah.
35. Yeah, Cesar
Yeah.
Chavez, and they are gone. Like maybe a guy has like a half-made tent, but a cop, he's not gonna have it for more than 30 minutes before a cop, knocks it down. So
Yeah.
you're all right. You just say, hey, you can't camp here, but then they go camping, somewhere else. I just thought it was crazy how there's multiple people where they did a documentary where they gave them an apartment. And they give them the UBI. They'll give them $1,100 in cash, not even just food stamps, and they still just they don't want to have a normal life. They would rather just be on the street and just not have any responsibilities or.
And I wonder how much, but on the other hand,
live
it could be a
there.
camaraderie thing. Like if you're on the street, you got your buddies, but if you're in that little apartment by yourself, you start feeling like it's a prison cell, right?
Well, I think that is what they say too. I think you actually nailed it. Is they feel trapped, and that's why actually they start to like to live outside because they feel like they can live anywhere. Like you know what I mean? It's the opposite of being trapped. They actually feel free living outside. Which you and I, if we had to sleep outside, we'd be like, "This sucks." I feel this is horrible. But I'm saying to them though, you're right. Like the tiny apartment, they feel like they're in a jail. You nailed it. That is like one of the sociological reasons that they say is that they like the freedom of being able to lay down on a bench and sleep for a couple hours, lay down here. Like they feel like the whole world is their apartment.
Folks, head over to malice.locals.com where Alex took questions from show listeners. Alex, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
I liked talking about Destiny because I really appreciate you at the beginning saying, I called you out for your treatment of Destiny and I was wrong because Destiny really is he's a pretty wild guy, to say the least. So I really appreciate, Michael, you being so gracious. And I appreciate you having me on. You're on Gutfeld. You're a busy guy. You're always writing. You're always grinding. So you making time to have me on, I appreciate that as well.
You are welcome.
Hey, it's James Altucher. I've been an entrepreneur, investor, best-selling writer, stand-up comic, and whatever it is I'm interested in, I get obsessed. Yes, it's led to success, but it's also led to such heartbreaking failure. I have failed more times than I can count. I wish in my life I had had people to talk to. That's why I started the James Altucher Show and bring on some of the most brilliant minds in every area of life. People like Richard Branson, Sarah Blakely, Mark Cuban, Danica Patrick, Gary Kasparov, and I wanted to find out exactly how they've navigated the highs, the lows, and everything in between. No fluff, just raw stories and real advice. I've talked to 1,500 of the most amazing people on the planet. So if you want to learn from the best and skip the same old canned interviews, we're all about helping you find your next big idea, level up your thinking, and ultimately to choose yourself. So let's do this together. Subscribe now to The James Altucher Show.
Just when you thought summer couldn't get any hotter, Pluto TV is turning up the heat with thousands of free movies. Presenting Summer of Cinema. Stream your favorite blockbuster films like Gladiator,
I will have my vengeance.
Good Burger,
This is what I call fast food.
Beverly Hills Cop, The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, and Julie and Julia.
Bon appetit.
All for free on your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.